Commissioner Gordon, Bane has escaped.
Resistance doesn't always come from outside. In fact, the most brutal form of resistance originates from within. When your actions are out of sync with your truth, you think the world is pushing back. You think life is against you, that people are cold, that luck forgot your name. But look closer. The cause isn't rejection. It's a reflection of your inner dissonance. That tightening in your chest before you speak. That hesitation before you move. That frustration when you try to create and nothing comes through. That's not failure, that's not feedback. Your body knows, your mind knows. But most ignore the signal and blame the storm. Misalignment feels like sabotage, but it's actually guidance. You're not being blocked, you're being called out. And the question isn't, why isn't it working? The real question is, why are you pretending this version of you should? Every time you lie to yourself, you jam your own frequency. You say you want focus, but your habits contradict it. You say you want respect, but your standards whisper otherwise. You speak of creativity, but your lifestyle chokes it. And the result? Static, misfired conversations, confused ambition, moments that almost bloom but collapse at the edge of greatness. That static is misalignment trying to be heard. The signal isn't gone. It's not by external obstacles, but by internal contradictions. And those contradictions cost you more than missed opportunities. They cost you momentum. Because nothing kills velocity like confusion dressed as progress. You sprint in circles. You win small but lose purpose. And worst of all, you feel it. Deep down, you know the version of you showing up isn't the version of you that should be. The tragedy of misalignment is that you can perform well and still rot inside. You hit goals, you get applause, but it all feels stale. Because achievement without authenticity is just decoration. You're living a version of success that someone else programmed. And now, every win tastes off. Every move feels forced. Not because you're lazy, not because you lack hunger, but because you're moving through someone else's framework. You're following rules you never wrote. That's what misalignment does. It traps you in effort without meaning. And that's why you keep hitting invisible ceilings, because you're not building from truth. You're building from survival, from noise, from borrowed ambition. And that foundation, it always cracks under pressure. Misalignment shows itself through friction. Conversations go stale. People don't respond. Your work doesn't land. And the worst part is, it almost works. It teases momentum. It gives you just enough to keep going, but never enough to feel seen. That's the trap. You're not off by miles. You're off by degrees. But those degrees cost everything. You're tuning your life to the wrong key and wondering why the music sounds off. You try to fix it with volume, more effort, more output. But louder doesn't mean clearer. Alignment isn't noise. It's tone. It's the silent force that makes the world lean in, and without it, no matter how hard you play, the room never sings back. The body keeps score. It always has. That fatigue you can't explain, that emotional fog, that hesitation to create, to speak, to act with clarity. It's your nervous system rejecting the role you're forcing it to play. Misalignment isn't just psychological. It's physiological. Your body knows when your actions betray your essence, and it resists, subtly, consistently. You miss cues. You forget details. You lose flow. Because flow only exists where truth meets movement. You can't fake it. You can't manufacture it with caffeine or quotes. Flow is a byproduct of integrity, and without it, everything you do becomes a form of avoidance. You're not building, you're buffering, waiting for the moment when the inner and outer you finally match. When you're aligned, the world doesn't get easier. It gets clearer. The resistance doesn't vanish. It becomes meaningful. You know which obstacles are real and which are self-inflicted. But when you're misaligned, everything feels arbitrary. Every setback feels personal. Every delay feels like judgment. That's the cost. You lose your ability to read life accurately. Misalignment distorts perception. You think people are attacking you, but they're reacting to your incongruence. You think opportunities are closed, but you never showed up with the right energy. You think your work lacks reach, but it lacks resonance. Because you didn't bring yourself, you brought the edited version, the polished mask. And masks repel what truth would have attracted. To get back into alignment, you don't need a full reinvention. You need radical subtraction. Remove what's fake. Discard the narratives that never belonged to you. Burn the expectations you inherited from people who never paid the price you're willing to. And then, quietly, without announcement, build again, slowly. From honesty, from rhythm, from a center that no longer compromises to avoid tension. Because the goal isn't to be liked. The goal is to be congruent. Congruence attracts clarity, and clarity becomes momentum. And momentum, when married to authenticity, becomes force. A force that moves people, ideas, and lives without needing explanation. You'll know you're realigned when simplicity returns. When you stop overthinking what to say when act to how to perform. Because now you're not acting, you're being. The habits that felt heavy become instinct. The standards that once needed reminding become automatic. And the people, they start showing up unforced, because energy is the real invitation. And aligned energy does what no marketing can. It pulls, not just people, but timing, insight, flow. It creates the conditions for greatness to occur. Not because of strategy, but because of state. You are your clearest strategy. And when your signal clears, life stops resisting. It starts responding. Misalignment can't be solved with more effort. It can only be solved with extraction. Get honest. Audit the things you're doing that drain your integrity. Strip away the words that sound good but don't feel right. Stop working to impress and start living to express. You don't need to rebuild your life from scratch. You need to burn the parts that lie. Because every lie you carry lowers your signal. And every false move jams the frequency you were meant to transmit. This isn't about performance. This is about purity of presence. Because when you walk in truth, the world hears it. Even before you speak, you attract what you are. Not what you post. Not what you promise. Not what you rehearse in your head when no one's looking. The world mirrors your internal architecture. You walk into a room, and it doesn't respond to your outfit. It responds to your frequency. That energy you carry when your eyes lock, when your silence lingers, when your steps don't explain themselves. You can fake charm, but you cannot fake presence. And presence is the sum of every battle you chose to fight when you could fold it. Every morning you got up when no one would have blamed you for staying down. That is what people feel, even if they never say it. The energy you emit is shaped by the standards you keep in solitude. So if you're attracting mediocrity, chaos, weakness, it's not punishment, it's reflection. Your habits build your gravitational pull, and gravity does not lie. You can wear success on your wrist, scream confidence in your captions, but the room always adjusts to your core, your decisions, your discipline, your emotional depth. They become the magnet. And that magnet pulls what aligns. You attract broken when you live in pieces. You attract distraction when you move without direction. But the moment you refine your code, when your word becomes law to yourself, everything around you reorganizes. Not because you asked, because you became. You didn't beg for loyalty, you embodied it. You didn't demand excellence, you radiated it. And the world responded like metal to a storm. You want different outcomes. Then raise your internal voltage. That's how you flip attraction into a weapon. People don't remember what you said. They remember how they felt in your orbit. They remember if your presence sharpened them or sedated them. If you walked in like a question mark or a statement. And that's not crafted, it's revealed. You want to attract warriors. Then stop moving like prey. Stop speaking like someone waiting for permission. A lion doesn't audition. It walks in and the room adjusts. And that's not ego. It's calibration. You've calibrated your mind to discipline, your voice to purpose, your actions to intent. So when others meet you, they don't see a man. They see a standard. One they either rise to meet or fall away from. And both are victories. Because when you carry the weight of your truth, the world filters itself. Every message you send when no one's watching becomes a broadcast when everyone is. That quiet training session, that hard conversation you didn't delay, that hour of reading when scrolling was easier, those stack. They don't just build results, they build resonance. And resonance is what determines who sticks around. You want loyal allies. Be loyal when it's inconvenient. You want sharp minds around you. Sharpen yours when no one's clapping. Because the world doesn't give you what you wish for. It hands you what your patterns demand. And when you become relentless in your commitment, when you live by a code too solid to fold, the universe reconfigures. Suddenly the chaos stops calling. The noise stops knocking. Because your frequency no longer tolerates what drains it. Attraction is not magic. It's mathematics. What you tolerate internally becomes the algorithm of your external life. You tolerate excuses. They multiply. You tolerate half effort. It surrounds you, but reverse it. Hold the line when it costs you. Show up when it's thankless. Speak truth when silence would have been easier. And now the equation shifts. What you attract becomes rare, refined, resolute. Because like attracts like. The disciplined find the disciplined. The powerful find the focused. The evolved find each other in rooms too silent for the average to understand. That's the ultimate filter. And you don't need to scream to be found. You just need to become unmissable. The real don't blend. They radiate. The people you lose are part of the process. Don't mourn them. Measure them. Their exit is proof of your rise. Because as your standards ascend, the air gets thinner. The emotionally untrained can't breathe up here. The undisciplined don't survive in your time zones. The flaky can't comprehend your consistency. And that's the point. You're not supposed to resonate with everyone. You're supposed to repel the unready. The man who attracts everyone lacks signal. He's noise. But the man who attracts the few who matter, the warriors, the thinkers, the builders, he's the lighthouse. His beam cuts through fog not to be admired, but to guide. And the ones who find him, they move different. Energy never lies. You walk into a room and the ones who have trained themselves, truly trained, can smell the difference. Not in your scent, in your signal. They recognize the way you hold your shoulders, not with arrogance, but with authority earned through solitude. They hear it in your tone, not loud, but final, and they feel it in your timing. You don't rush to fill silence. You let the room adjust. Because you've trained in the dark, in seasons where you had to be your own motivation, your own witness, your own voice of reason. That kind of man doesn't need to shout. He carries gravity, and that gravity attracts not followers but forces, not company but counsel, because those who are built recognize those who are becoming. You attract what you believe you deserve, not consciously, but biologically. If you believe you are only worth fragments, you will magnetize people who offer you pieces. If you've accepted inconsistency in yourself, you'll find it in your relationships, in your work, in your environment. But when you upgrade your identity, when you become a man whose standards choke average, you shift everything. Your presence demands more than words. It demands evolution, and those who refuse to grow, they ghost themselves. They don't leave you. They leave the confrontation of their own limitations, and your silence becomes louder than their excuses. Because your life is now a mirror, and some people can't look directly into it. You are not chasing, you are attracting, and that changes the game. You stop chasing outcomes and start curating inputs. You stop running after people and start refining your posture. Because the magnet doesn't move. It holds still and pulls. That's power. Quiet, deliberate, exact. And the men who get this don't waste time managing impressions. They manage alignment. They build a life so clear, so brutally precise, that the wrong energies get exhausted just standing near them. You don't need validation when your presence verifies itself. You don't need applause when your energy silences rooms. That's not magic. That's architecture. You built that. Everything in your life is orbiting the current structure of your identity. Not your ambition, not your words, not your potential. Identity is gravity, and it pulls in outcomes that match its shape. You want to know why your results haven't changed. Don't look at your goals. Look at your self-concept. Look at the image you hold of yourself when no one's around. The unspoken truth about your standards. The subconscious settings that decide how much success you allow before sabotaging it. How much discipline you tolerate before retreating. How much love you accept before pushing it away. You think life is random. It's mathematical. Inputs echo the foundation. And if the foundation says, I am average, then no matter how hard you work, your life will bend until it fits that mold again. You don't get what you want. You get who you are. Identity is the thermostat. Your actions can turn up the heat for a while. Your emotions can spike the temperature with a burst of momentum. But if the setting is stuck at 65, it doesn't matter what flames you ignite. They'll die down. The room always resets. Your results always normalize to your internal setting. So when you try to change your habits without shifting your self-concept, you're not upgrading. You're arguing with your own gravity. You're sprinting with an anchor tied to your spine. That's why it feels like you're working so hard and going nowhere. Because your identity doesn't recognize the version of you're trying to become. And what it doesn't recognize, it rejects. You attract habits that match your current identity blueprint. If you see yourself as undisciplined, you'll gravitate toward late nights, comfort, and shows, no matter how many planners you buy. If you see yourself as overlooked, you'll unconsciously dodge visibility, shrink your voice, apologize for ambition. If you see yourself as a victim, even opportunity feels like a threat. And here's the sinister part: the world mirrors back what you accept. Not consciously, but energetically. You attract what affirms your self-image. even if that image is damaging. It's why some people can't receive love. It contradicts their internal script. It's why some can't handle peace. It threatens their identity of struggle. Until you shift the route, you repeat the cycle. Different clothes, same pattern. The danger isn't in failure. The danger is in getting temporary success with a mismatched identity. Because when you succeed beyond your self-concept, your nervous system sees it as a threat, and it pulls you back down. That's why the lottery winner goes broke. That's why the transformed body gets abandoned. That's why momentum dies after a month. You didn't become the man who could sustain the result. You only became the man who could reach it. But identity is not about reaching. It's about anchoring. And if you don't anchor a new concept of self, one built on evidence, repetition, and declaration, you will always return to the version of you that feels true, no matter how false that truth is. Identity is not forged in isolation. It's carved through friction, through days where you act differently than your history demands. It's built every time you override your emotional reflex, every time you act like the man you're becoming, not the one you were. And at first, it feels like lying. That's because your nervous system is loyal to the past. But every repetition chips away at that loyalty. Every aligned action becomes proof. And eventually, the new identity doesn't feel like a mask. It feels like home. That's when your gravity shifts. That's when you walk into rooms and things start moving. People treat you differently. Not because you told them to, but because you became a different mass, a different force. That's identity at scale. You've never been chasing outcomes. You've been chasing permission. And the only place that permission ever comes from is the story you tell yourself about who you are. That story is everything. It tells you what's acceptable, what's possible, what's probable. It edits your reality before you even open your eyes. So until you rewrite the narrative, nothing around you will change. You'll keep resetting, keep circling, keep watching others ascend while wondering why your wings don't catch wind. It's not your talent. It's not your luck. It's your ceiling. And that ceiling lives in your language, your posture, your subconscious scripts. Burn them. Write new ones, or stay trapped in a house you built and forgot how to leave. No shift in self, no shift in results. It's not just philosophy, it's physics. Identity determines behavior. Behavior reinforces identity. And the loop continues. You can't will your way out of it. You have to break it, interrupt it, starve the old identity of oxygen while feeding the new one with ruthless precision. That means waking up and acting like the man who's already won. Before you feel like him, before anyone claps, before anything validates you, you walk, speak, and train like he would. And in doing so, you collapse time. You bring the future version of yourself into the present. And everything that matches him, people, habits, outcomes, starts orbiting your new gravity. Identity is gravity. It's the force that makes certain decisions feel natural and others feel alien. It's the reason some people wake up and train without thought, while others battle themselves to do one thing. It's not motivation. It's alignment. The ones who win long-term don't have more willpower. They have better calibration. They've designed an internal world that makes excellence inevitable. And when you reach that level, success stops being a grind. It becomes a consequence, a symptom of who you are. You don't chase it, you bleed it. You walk into rooms and results happen, not because you demand them, but because the world is just catching up to your signal. Your self-concept is the engine behind every room you get invited into or locked out of. It decides how you spend your time, who you tolerate, what you expect, what you prepare for, and the scariest part, it was installed before you ever had a say. Childhood, environment, repetition. But that's the beauty of identity. You didn't write the first draft, but you can rewrite the rest of the book if you dare, if you're willing to shed the language, behaviors, and affiliations that feed your current gravitational pull. If you're ready to walk away from the people who only know how to orbit the old you. Because to attract the new world, you must become the new mass, the new center, the new law.